So interestingly enough, there's not actually that much to cover from CPAC, the Conservative Political Action Conference. We covered Donald Trump's speech earlier in the show, and there's only a few other things to say. CPAC, at one point, CPAC really was one of the more important right-wing conferences with many big players from the American right. And this past weekend, CPAC was more like a racist, transphobic, religious Comic-Con than a serious gathering. And I don't even want to insult Comic-Con. Like, comparing CPAC to Comic-Con, Comic-Con has a lot of really interesting things. Comic-Con has lots of great sci-fi writers and a lot of interesting things. I think I would learn a lot more, actually, by going to Comic-Con than I would from CPAC. So I'll put it a different way. I would much rather go to Comic-Con than CPAC. Not only would it be more informative, I'd meet more interesting people and people more grounded in reality. In any case, Comic-Con sort of analogies aside, one of the notable speeches was Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz is the now very much beleaguered senator who recently had to cut his Cancun vacation short because it exploded into a public relations nightmare when he fled to Mexico with his family as his own constituents in Texas were without power, sometimes without heat, struggling even to get food. Water had to be boiled. Many times with electricity they didn't have. Ted Cruz went to Cancun. So Ted Cruz goes to CPAC, and he appeared to have sort of like a manic episode. His speech ended with a completely hyperbolic crescendo of screaming, which we'll get to. But Ted Cruz first opening with a joke about wanting to be back in Cancun, I guess.
God bless CPAC. I gotta say, Orlando is awesome. It's not as nice as Cancun. But it's nice.
So really well-crafted comedy by the Republican senator, really a wordsmith and public speaking expert, as you can see. Then he ridiculously went after Senator Bernie Sanders and Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. We're actually going to come back to the AOC part a little bit later, but take a look.
Bernie is wearing mittens. And AOC is telling us she was murdered. And the media desperately wants to see a Republican civil war.
So this is like, I can't figure out if this is bad comedy or terrible political speech. I actually can't tell which it is. Maybe it's both. Ted Cruz then going into an anti-mask rant. They're still on this mask stuff.
By the way, how many of y'all have eaten at a restaurant in the last 6 months? Can I just stop and say how strange the rules are right now? I want to understand how this virus works. So when you walk in, you got to put your mask on. Sadly, I've got two. You walk in, you got to put your mask on. You sit down, you take your mask off. See, apparently the virus is actually connected to elevation. No, remember, this is all about science. It's actually, it may not be elevation. I think it's that there are hormones that are released in your thighs when you're sitting. So you can sit at the table and there's no virus being transmitted. But if you stand up, put the mask on.
Who wrote this stuff for Ted Cruz? They should really be writing for SNL or The Daily Show. I mean, great material for how you would ridicule a politician giving a speech. And then here is where Ted Cruz starts to kind of escalate and seemingly get more and more manic.
They're saying everybody can get immunized. We can have herd immunity everywhere, and we're going to wear masks for the next 300 years. And by the way, not just one mask, 2, 3, 4. You can't have too many masks. How much virtue do you want to signal? This is just dumb.
Ted Cruz working himself up to actually being sort of short of breath now. And of course, as I've said many times before, The reason that public health experts have to be so cautious in what they say about what an individual getting vaccinated means is that so many people, like Ted Cruz, like his followers, like the people at CPAC, they are desperate to disregard all guidelines and measures. Oh, one person got vaccinated. Let's hold a 50-person indoor party. Of course, reasonable people know that vaccination opens new doors for people. And of course, as more people get vaccinated, we will be able to start backing off of all the guidelines. But because of people like Ted Cruz spreading disinformation that we never needed masks and all of this stuff all along was bogus, public health experts have to say, just because you got vaccinated, don't go nuts. Just because 5% of the population has had 2 doses, or whatever the number is, I'm not caught up. We'll have a report tomorrow. Doesn't mean everything can be disregarded. Ted Cruz now is and I've seen, unfortunately, Facebook friends posting this too. If the vaccines change nothing, why would I get a vaccine? And of course, as we talked about last week in our segment about vaccine alarmism, that's not the case. But the reason people have to continue being so careful with what they say from a public health standpoint is because of people like Ted Cruz. Okay, I'll interrupt this rant and do more of it tomorrow. Then here's the absolute end to Ted Cruz's speech, screaming at the top of his lungs and really appearing to lose it.
In the immortal words of William Wallace, freedom!
So that's a senator, one of 100 senators in the collegial and storied legislative body that is the United States government, the United States Senate within the United States government, screaming at the top of his lungs, quoting Mel Gibson in Braveheart as an apparently defiant and principled stand against wearing a mask during a pandemic. This was one of the highlights of CPAC, if you can imagine. Most of the rest of it not even worth covering, but one theme that we did see throughout CPAC is the inability to accept that Donald Trump lost, and I want to talk about that next. If you are anything like me, you probably aren't thrilled with the idea of going into a doctor's office right now. And thankfully, there's a practical and affordable way to take control of your health and get personalized care from the comfort of your home. It's a service called SteadyMD. They're one of our sponsors. You take a quiz, you get matched with a licensed primary care physician who understands your health needs. You have a 1-hour video call with your new doctor. You establish a meaningful relationship with them. And after that, your doctor is available to you anytime by text, phone, or video chat. This is not a random doctor on call. Each doctor at SteadyMD has a limited number of patients, so they actually have time to listen to you. You get the personal attention that you deserve. They can do almost everything an in-person doctor can do: perform medical evaluations, talk to you about health concerns, send prescriptions to your home or local pharmacy, and anything they can't do online, they'll quickly set you up with an in-person provider to do, things like blood tests, as an example. You don't need insurance. It's only $99 a month with no other fees or copays. There are so many practical advantages to using SteadyMD for primary care, and it's also so much more affordable. Go to steadymd.com/Pakman to take the free quiz, see which doctor is right for you. I took their quiz. They matched me with a doctor who specializes in my particular health needs and situation. The doctor they gave me is a really perfect fit for me and my medical needs. There's no risk, no commitment to get started. Just click the link right underneath this video.